Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to launch a great looking website very quickly in a matter of minutes. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is log into my Nitrous account just so that I have that ready. So I'm going to sign in here. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to my dashboard. And then from here, I'm just going to power on my Nitrous box. Okay, and then I'm going to click IDE here to get to my development environment. And I'll clear some of this up. Okay, so what we're going to do is create a new directory where we can store this application. So the first thing I'm going to do is just open up this workspace folder. Now you may have other folders here or not, depending on if you've been experimenting, but don't worry about that. We're just going to create a new folder inside of this workspace folder here. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click CD workspace so that I'm inside that directory there. And then from here, we're going to generate a new blank Rails app template. So we'll say Rails new, and then we'll give it a name. So just like that, I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so now it's generating out the files that make up a Rails application. So let's let it do that. Okay, so now that that's done, what we'll do is just refresh over here. So I can click this refresh button, or you can always just fold up the workspace folder and unfold it. And you'll see now we have this new directory here called cool site. And so if we unfold that, you'll get the skeleton template for a Rails application. So from here, what we can do is just change directories into that new directory we created. So cd and then cool_site. Okay, so now that we're in here, I want to point something out. Whenever you have this public folder right here set up in your Rails application, you can store HTML files in here, and those will take precedence. If you have a file in here, especially called index.html, you can just create a new one, and it will become your new homepage for a Rails application. So I'll show you how that works in a minute. But first, since you have some experience with HTML, I'm going to show you a fun and interesting way to kind of create a site very quickly. Now what we're going to do is pull up an HTML template. You can find these online for free. There's many different kinds out there. And what we'll do is install that inside of this public folder right here. And the great thing about doing this is you'll get a learning experience of how a professional puts together an HTML website so that you can kind of get a sense of how they're built and look at all of the code firsthand. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up a new tab and I'm going to search free parallax HTML template in Google. Now you could have just searched for free HTML template, and like I said, there's plenty of these out there. You can really dig through all the search results and look for them. But in our case, I'm going to use this free parallax template just because that's kind of a common trend over the last few years. You know, it's just something that makes websites look really fun and cool right off the bat. So down here, I'm going to go down and find this URL here where it says shapebootstrap.net and click on this link here. If you're not seeing that, I'll provide the link for you. So I'm going to click on that. And then from here, I'm just going to click on live demo so you can see what we're about to integrate in our site here. So it's going to look like this. And you'll have the ability to edit all of this because now that you have the skills of HTML, you can go in and change all of this content out as you please. Okay, so that's what's fun about using templates is you can kind of get a sense of how a professional puts a site together, and then you can even go in there and customize it if you want and play around with it. So I'm going to go ahead and click back, and back one more time, and then we want to download this. So make sure you know where that gets downloaded in your computer. It should download as a .zip file, so that means all the files are packaged up inside of one zip file. And then we just need to go to that file. So in this case, it's right here. And all I need to do is double click on it to open it. Now, on a Windows machine, you might have to do something else. You may want to Google how to unzip a file if you're having trouble, but you should be able to just double click it on a modern Windows machine and it should work. Or right click and see if you have an unzip option. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just double click this, and it's produced a folder for me. And so basically it's just unzipped into an actual folder. And in here, I can actually see all of the different files that make up this website right here in this elegance folder here. Okay, so what I'm going to do from here is we want to upload this into Nitrous. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Nitrous now. And then what I'm going to do, I'll just close this window right here, or that file, and then we want to upload our files inside of this public folder. So I'm going to right click on the word public, and then I'm going to say upload files to public. And then in here, I'm going to click browse and just add the files from that folder there. So I can find my folder in my hard drive, and I'll want to find it, make sure I find the exact folder. And then you want to go to that elegance folder from the folder that you actually unzipped. And in there, we want to grab each and every one of these files and folders. So we have to do the files first. So I'm just going to select all the files. You may have to do them one at a time or see if you can select all of them. And then I'm going to go ahead and click open and click upload. Now we need to get all of those folders in there as well. So I'm going to right click on here and I'm going to say new folder because there was a JavaScript folder in there. So I'm going to say JS, okay? And then we're going to upload the JavaScript files in there. So right click now on the word JS and we want to say upload files to JS. And then we hit browse. And then from here, go to that same JS folder that you've got in your computer's hard drive and select all the files in there. Again, you may have to do them one at a time, see if you can select all of them. And then click open, and we'll hit upload. All of those should get uploaded in there. So I also saw a CSS folder in there, so we'll need all the files in that one. So I'm going to right click on public again and say new folder, and this time we'll call it CSS. And then I'm going to right click on CSS, and then I'm going to say upload files to CSS. Then I click browse, and now we go to that CSS folder that we've got here. And I'm going to highlight all those files and upload them. And then finally, let's see, there was also this fonts folder and an images folder. So we'll need both of those as well. So I'm going to go back to public and right click and say new folder. We'll call it fonts. And then the same thing, we're going to right click on fonts and say upload files to fonts. And then I'm going to click browse. And we go over to that fonts folder that we have here. And it looks like there's two other folders in here, so we'll need to create those under the fonts directory in Nitrous first. Okay, so let's look at the spelling here. So we'll grab that first one. So cancel all of this. And then right click on the word fonts itself and say new folder, because we need to put a folder inside of it, and we'll call it whatever the spelling was for that one. And I'll just look over here to see the other one. And then the same thing, right click on fonts, new folder. Make sure that I spelled that right. Okay, so now that that's in there, we can now upload the files that were inside of them. So let's start with this one. I'll right click on this and say upload files to that folder. We'll browse. And inside of fonts, this is the one that I'm on right now. Select all of those and upload them. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing for this one here. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say upload files and then click browse. Select all the files that were in that folder. Okay, so let's see what we have left. At this point, I think it's just the images folder. So we need to grab those, and it looks like there's some subfolders in there. So we'll need to create those as well. So I'll do that really quick. So we'll just go back. And it looks like we need clients, portfolio, services. So let's go over here and right click on public and say new folder. We'll call it images. And then inside of there, we'll right click and say new folder. And there was portfolio. There's also clients and services. So let's do that. So right click, new folder, clients. Right click, new folder, services. And then we've also got slider, social, and team. Right click, new folder, slider, same deal. Right click, new folder, and then teams. And if I go back here, and that was just team, and then we need social as well. So I'm going to rename this one. So right click on it and rename, get rid of that extra S, and then right click, new folder, and we're going to say social. Okay, so that should be all of the folders that were inside of this images folder here. Clients, portfolio, services, slider, social, team. Clients, portfolio, services, slider, social, and team. Okay, so now we can go ahead and upload the actual files in those folders. So I'm going to look in here, and there's some inside the actual images folder itself, so we'll start with those. So we go back here and I right click, say upload files to images. We browse, and then we need to find that images folder and just select each of these loose hanging files. And then we click open and then upload. Okay, so now we need to upload each of the files inside of these folders here. So we'll start with clients, upload files, browse, and select all of these and upload them. We do the same for each of these other folders. Okay, so at this point you should have all of the files and folders loaded up in there inside of this public folder here in our Rails app. So just to recap, all we really did was grab all of the contents right here inside of this folder where it says elegance. Okay, we don't need the one that says elegance documentation, just the one that says elegance. We grabbed all of that content and then we simply dropped it all in here in the same exact format inside of this public directory here. And so you should have all of these same folders and files now in there, okay, that we imported over. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to type bundle install. Make sure you're in your application directory here, just like that. So we'll just type bundle install. And once you get the green confirmation, we can proceed and we'll just type bundle execute Rails server. And now that the server is up and running, we can just click this preview button right here and then port 3000. And there you have it. You've got your brand new HTML template loaded up on your server here. So now you know how to launch a great looking site in a matter of minutes. And if you scroll down here, you can see all kinds of really cool UI interactions that happen as you scroll. And as you hover your mouse as well, you'll get some really cool interactions going on. So one thing I do want to point out is that you have to have this Rails server running here to be able to view it at this domain name here. And now if you want a custom domain that you want to see here, you'll have to upgrade your Nitrous account, and you can look up custom domains for nitrous in Google, and then you'll find an article kind of showing you step by step what to do after you upgrade your account. And it should be pretty straightforward, and then you can have an actual custom domain name with a great looking site behind it. And furthermore, now that you know your HTML, you can go in there and, for example, click on this index.html file that we dropped into this public folder here. And since this is a one-page site, right? So if I go up here, I can click on any of these, and it's not like we're going to different pages. This is kind of a one-pager site where you can kind of showcase your work or things like that. You could convert this into a business site as well. So one thing to keep in mind is that since you know some HTML, you can go in here now and take a look at how this was coded, and you can really start to learn from this, okay? And you're going to see stuff that we haven't covered yet, but you're going to learn this very quickly going forward. We're going to be learning CSS as well as JavaScript. And there is some CSS and JavaScript in here, and as you can see under these folders, for example, that we added, you can actually see some of the CSS code and the JavaScript code if you look in here. But now, don't get scared by any of this. You're going to learn about all of this stuff going forward very quickly, and I think you'll get a good grasp of it very fast. But just keep in mind with this HTML file, you can really look through it and learn a lot by going through it, and you can even customize things as you see fit and make this site kind of look like your own. But something that I do want to point out is, remember, whenever you find templates or resources out there of prepackaged pieces of code, you want to make sure that if it's appropriate, you want to give a shout out to the actual author of the application. And in this case, we got it from this website here. It is a good idea to kind of make sure that you reference this website somewhere in your template here if you ever do choose to use this in personal or commercial uses. Also, make sure it is good to check and see if there's a license attached to the piece of code, and just make sure that you do follow the license procedures. And then finally, you can also support this author by clicking right here on the website where it says buy me a coffee. So just remember, it is always a good habit to give credit to the author whenever it's due. Now, another thing to keep in mind is you can repeat this same process now that you know how to upload an HTML template, and you could upload a totally different template altogether and get experience with a bunch of different HTML templates. For example, you could look through some of the other templates on this site. You could also search for something like free resume HTML templates in Google and kind of look through all of the different websites that are out there and get a sense for what's there. And it's a good habit to kind of at least explore those things and download them, maybe install them on your server. And then remember, you do need to run the Rails server command from the directory of the application where you're going to be installing it here in this public folder. So again, if you find another HTML template, you could just do the same process. You'd want to remove the files that we added here in public, and then you'll want to add in their set of files that they tell you to add. And you'll just want to make sure that one of those files says index.html. That's always going to end up being your home page whenever you drop in an HTML template here in this public folder. So, like I was saying, you can go through the web and find other templates and get a sense for what's out there and quickly build great looking sites. Now, just keep in mind, it's not a good practice to just do that. You're going to learn a lot of skills going forward, and I think it's important to be able to build your own applications, but this is just great from a learning perspective.